What's up, guys? I'm Eliangeli. Welcome to Chemical Coordination. Here we go!
The nervous system is a coordination system forming a link between stimulus and response. The body has a second coordination system which does not involve nerves. This is the endocrine system. It consists of organs called endocrine glands, which make chemical messenger substances called hormones. Hormones are carried in the bloodstream. The endocrine system is the group of glands and organisms that release or secretes a substance. This means that cells in the glands make a chemical which passes out of the cells. The chemical then travels somewhere else in the body, where it carries out its function. These hormones are released directly into the circulatory system to regulate the function of distant target organs, and the feedback loops which modulate hormone release so that homeostasis is maintained. Because hormones are carried in the blood, they can travel to all areas in the body. They usually only affect certain tissues or organs, called target organs, which can be a long distance from the gland that made the hormone. Hormones only affect particular tissues or organs if the cells of that tissue or organs have a special chemical receptors for the particular hormone. For example, the hormone insulin affects the cells of the liver which have insulin receptors. In vertebrates, the hypothalamus is the neural control center for all endocrine system because it links the nervous system to the endocrine system via the pituitary gland. The study of the endocrine system and its disorders is known as endocrinology. There are two types of glands, exocrine and endocrine glands. Special features of endocrine glands are in general their ductless nature, their vascularity, and commonly the presence of intracellular vacuoles or granules that store their hormones. In contrast, exocrine glands, such as salivary glands, sweat glands, and glands with the gastrointestinal tract, tend to be much less vascular and secrete the product through a duct or hollow lumen. In addition to the specialized endocrine organs mentioned above, many other organs that are part of other body systems, such as bone, kidney, liver, heart, and gonads, have a secondary endocrine function. For example, the kidney secretes endocrine hormones such as erythropoietin and renin. Hormones can consist of ether amino acid complex, steroids, eicosanoids, leukotrienes, or prostaglandins. The differences between nervous and endocrine control. Although the nervous and endocrine system both act to coordinate body function, there are differences in the way that they do this. The nervous system works by nerve impulses transmitted through nerve cells, although chemicals are used at synapses. Instead, endocrine system works by hormones transmitted through the bloodstream. In nervous system, nerve impulses travel fast and usually have an instant effect. Instead, in the endocrine system, hormones travel more slowly, and generally take longer to act. The nervous response is usually short-lived. Instead, the endocrine response is usually longer-lasting. The nervous impulses act on individual cells, such as muscle fiber, so have a very localized effects. Instead, hormones can have widespread effect on different organs, although they only act on particular tissue or organs, if the cells have the correct receptors. The pituitary. The pituitary gland is found at the base of the brain. It is composed of 3 lobes, anterior, intermediate, although rudimentally in humans, and posterior. It produces a number of hormones, including those that regulate reproduction. The pituitary contains neurons linking it to a part of the brain called the hypothalamus, and some of its hormones are produced under the control of the brain. The pituitary gland is often dubbed the master glands, because its hormones control other parts of the endocrine system, namely the thyroid gland, adrenal gland, ovaries, and testes. That's about as large as a pea. The anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary contains several differential types of cells that synthesize and secrete hormones. Usually, there is one type of cell for each major hormone formed in anterior pituitary. At least 5 types of cells can be differentiated. Somatropause, human growth hormone, HGH, is essential early years to maintain a healthy body composition and for growth in children. In adults, it aids healthy bone and muscle mass and affects fat distribution. Corticotropes. Adrenocorticotropin, ACTH, stimulates the adrenal glands to produce hormones. Thyrotropes. Thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, stimulates the thyroid gland to produce hormone. Gonadotropes. Gonadotropic hormone, both luteinizing hormone, LH, and follicle stimulating hormones, FSH. FSH works with LH to ensure normal functioning of ovaries and testes. Lactotropes. Prolactin, PRL, stimulates breast milk production. The posterior lobe. The posterior lobe develops as an extension of the hypothalamus. The posterior pituitary hormones are synthesized by cell bodies in the hypothalamus. The posterior lobe does not produce hormones. This is done by nerve cells in the hypothalamus, but it does release them into the circulation. Antidiuretic hormone, ADH. This hormone prompts the kidney to increase water absorption in the blood. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is involved in a variety of processes such as contracting the uterus during childbirth and stimulating breast milk production. There are 2 types of pituitary tumors, secretory and non-secretory. Secretory tumors secrete too much of a hormone, and non-secretory tumors don't secrete excess hormone. Another pituitary disorder is known as pituitary apoplex. In some cases, pituitary function can be suddenly disturbed due to bleeding or trauma, creating a life-threatening storage of vital hormones. The thyroid. The thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland located in front of windpipe, called trachea, and just below the larynx, or Adam's apple, in the neck. It's comprised of two valves known as lobes, which are attacked by a band of thyroid tissue called isthmus. The thyroid gland secretes three hormones, namely the two thyroid hormones, thyroxine 3,4 and tridothyroxine 3,3, and calcitonin. The thyroid hormones primarily influence the metabolic rate and protein synthesis, but they also have many other effects, including effect on development. Calcitonin plays a role in a calcium homeostasis. What they influences? They influences metabolic. The thyroid hormones increase the basal metabolic rate. Influences cardiovascular. The hormones increase the rate and strength of heartbeat. They increase the rate of breathing, intake and constriction of oxygen. They increase the rate of breathing, intake and consumption of oxygen, and increase the activity of mitochondria. Combined, these factors increase blood flow and the body's temperature. Influences developmental. Thyroid hormones are important for normal developmental. They increase the growth rate of young people, and cells of the developing brain are a major target for the thyroid hormones T3 and T4. Thyroid hormones play a particular circular role in brain maturation during fetal developmental and first few years of postnatal life. The thyroid hormones also play a role in maintaining normal sexual function, sleep and growth patterns. Sexual function, including libido and the maintenance of a normal menstrual cycle, are influenced by thyroid hormones. Disturbs and disease. Goiters. A goiter is a bulge in the neck. There is a toxic goiter and a non-toxic goiter. Hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism is caused by too much thyroid hormone. People with hyperthyroidism are often sensitive to heat, hyperactive, and eat excessively. Hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism is a common condition characterized by too little thyroid hormone. In infants, the condition is known cretinism. Cretinism has very serious side effects, including abnormal bone formation and mental retardation. If you have hypothyroidism as an adult, you may experience sensitivity to cold, little appetite, and overall sluggishness. Solitary thyroid nodules. Solitary nodules or lumps in the thyroid are actually quite common. Thyroid cancer. Thyroid cancer is very common, though long-term survival rates are excellent. Thyroiditis. Thyroiditis is an inflammation of the thyroid. Parathyroids. The four parathyroids are typically found on the backside of the thyroids. They are about the size and shape of a grain of rice. The major function of the parathyroid glands is to maintain the body calcium and phosphate levels within a very narrow range. They do this by secreting parathyroid hormone, PTH. Parathyroid hormone is a small protein that takes part in the control of calcium and phosphate homeostasis, as well as bone physiology. Parathyroid hormone has effect antagonist to those of calcitrine. For calcium, PTH increases blood calcium levels by directly stimulating osteoclasts and thereby indirectly stimulating osteoblasts to break down bones and release calcium. PTH increases gastrointestinal calcium absorption by activating vitamin D and promotes calcium conservation by the kidneys. For phosphate, PTH is the major regulator of serum phosphate concentration via action on the kidney. It is an inhibitor of proximal tubular reabsorption of phosphorus through activation of vitamin D. The absorption intestinal of phosphate is increased. Hyperparathyroidism is the state in which there is excess parathyroid hormone circulating. The state of decreased parathyroid activity is known as hypoparathyroidism. Adrenal glands. The adrenal glands, also known as suprarenal glands, they are found above the kidneys. Each gland has an outer cortex and an inner medulla. The adrenal cortex itself is divided into three zones: the zona glomerulosa, the zona glomerulosa, the zona fasciculata, and the zona reticularis. The adrenal cortex produces three main types of steroid hormones: mineral corticoids, glucocorticoids, and androgens. Mineral corticoids, such as aldosterone, produced in the zona glomerulosa, help in the regulation of blood pressure and electrolyte balance. The glucocorticoids, cortisol and cortisone, are synthesized in zona fasciculata. Their function include the regulation of metabolism and immune system suppression. The zona reticularis produces androgens that are converted to fully functional sex hormones in the gonads and other target organs. The medulla produces adrenaline and noradrenaline, which function to produce a rapid response throughout the body in stress situations. The most common disorders and disease of the adrenal glands. Addison disease. This rare disorder may affect anyone at any age. It develops when an adrenal cortex fails to produce enough cortisol and aldosterone. Adrenal cancer. Adrenal cancer is an aggressive cancer, but it's very rare. Cushing's syndrome. Cushing's syndrome is an uncommon condition that is essentially the opposite of Addison disease. It is caused by overproduction of the hormone cortisol. There are a variety of causes of this disorder. A tumor in the adrenal gland or pituitary gland could be to the blame. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. This genetic disorder is characterized by low levels of cortisol. It's common for people with congenital adrenal hyperplasia to have additional hormone problems, such as low levels of aldosterone, which maintains a balance of water and salt. The pancreas. The pancreas is a gland having both an endocrine and a digestive exocrine function, that in humans lies in the upper left part of the abdomen. The pancreas contains tissue with an exocrine and endocrine rule. These are called pancreatic histones, also called histones of Langerhans. Pancreatic histones contain alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, epsilon cells, and gamma or F cells, each of which releases a different hormone. When blood glucose levels are low, alpha cells secrete glucagon, which increases blood glucose levels. When blood glucose levels are high, beta cells secrete insulin to decrease glucose in blood, and so play a significant role in diabetes. Delta cells in the histones also secrete somatostatin, which decreases the release of insulin and glucose. Epsilon cells produce hormone ghrelin that induces hunger. F cells produce pancreatic polypeptides. Function is to self-regulate pancreatic secretion activities, endocrine and exocrine. Of all the diseases and disorders of the pancreas, the most well known is diabetes, that is caused by absence of insulin. Other common diseases and disorders associated with the pancreas are hyperglycemia, is caused by overproduction of hormone glucagon, and hypoglycemia is caused by overproduction of insulin. The gonads. The gonads are sex glands or reproductive glands that produce sex hormones of an organism. In humans, these are called ovaries in female and testes in male.